Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast, week 1, 2021 season. My name is Demetrius. Shout out super producer extraordinaire Mike Ward. Couldn't be with us today. Wow, so didn't see that coming. It is interesting. We are covering the week 1 game with the 49ers. With 7 or so minutes left, this was going to be a relatively easy podcast. I thought, okay, we're going to have to do some of those this year. They won't necessarily be fun, but I know where we are. I know what's happening. And so I expect there will be those. Then it got interesting. I mean, that's the best way to put it. So the quick particulars that, no Taylor Decker injures his finger midweek, has surgery. So you move Penei Sewell over to left tackle and Matt Nelson takes up right tackle. This is a Lion team that comes in with huge turnover on the roster and obviously everywhere else in the building. New GM, new head coach, coordinators, scheme, many new players, right? So I did a preseason and a few off seasons trying to really say, what is this? What is the expectation? How do you approach this as a fan? Because my standard disclaimer always applies. I'm not a broadcaster. I'm not a journalist. I'm not beholden to sponsors. I don't need to generate callers. I'm a fan. I'm a fan that likes to talk about this football team. So what are the expectations going in? What are you thinking? And I didn't know because we didn't know so much. There were so many variables. And as a person who likes data, trusts data, it was tough. I didn't have any data. So I didn't know, right? So the final score is 41-33 San Francisco. This game at one point, I think, was 31-10. Might have been 41-17 at one point. The game was not as close as the score would indicate. But it doesn't mean you can't take anything positive from the final score. And the narrative, it just depends on who you are, right? If you want to be that dude, Dumbass Dan, we like to call him, you're going to say SOL. Because you've been waiting for 8 months to type that stupid stuff. If you are Johnny Blue Skies, me, kind of like me, you will find some positive. I found numerous positives. And if you're that dude, if you're a dumbass Dan and you prefer to go, the Fords need to sell the team, blah, 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 you can find another podcast. I don't even care that much. I don't, that's absurd. If you just watch one football game and you have decided who Jared Goff is, who Penei Sewell is, who Jeff Okudah is, and even more importantly, who Dan Campbell is from one game against a better team, and you can do that, you're just better than me. So go ahead, do your thing, be you, and have fun. Have fun jumping on your little Twitter machine and typing the same stupid stuff all the time. I think the last 5, 6, 7 minutes made it more interesting to me. I don't know if any of it was enough to inform a definite opinion because I just don't do that. And there's guys who do that. You can listen to the sports talk radio station all day tomorrow and they're going to tell you, okay, it's over. This is what it is. Because that's what they do. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with what they do. I just don't do that. That's not the kind of podcast this is. And you can disagree with me and hopefully still enjoy the podcast. If not, maybe I'm doing this whole thing wrong. But the narratives are going to range, right? San Francisco was playing their scrubs late, so none of the stuff that happened in the last 5 minutes matter. To that person says they didn't quit. They did, and I like the effort. I like the effort in the last few minutes of the game. How much stock do I put in it? Not that much, because the truth is, 5 hours ago, I knew San Francisco was a better football team. 5 hours ago, I knew that there's a lot of work to do. There's talent deficiencies. But truthfully, this podcast is called Cornbread and Kool-Aid for a reason, because I find the silver lining. I will create the silver lining, right? So my feeling is this game was perfect. This game was literally perfect. Here's why. I see the problems. We got 3+ quarters to see that there are talent deficiencies, right? We got to see wide open receivers running across the middle of the field, gaping running back holes. We saw drop passes. So we see that there is a talent deficiency, which should help level set you for the rest of the season. It should level set you with, this is where they are now, but I know what's coming. I know 2-1s this year, 2-1s next year. I know that the improvement has to come. What today does was I get to baseline certain players, and then I can measure them going forward. I can measure Jared Goff. It's not just young players. I don't exclude the first 3.5 quarters and say Jared Goff is the guy who played the last 4 minutes. That would be irresponsible and kind of absurd, but kind of cornbreadish. But I'm not doing that because Jared Goff, not just the one horrific pass, which was a bad throw and a bad decision, and even he knows. He said in the post game, you got to have that one back. He hung on to Hawkinson too long, and just made a bad decision. And he might have gotten hit during the throw, but that's no excuse. That's a bad decision to go there with the football. I think Jared Goff is what he is. I think you're going to hear people say captain check down and things like that. He didn't try much. I don't know if that's the play calling. I don't know if receivers are running routes. There's so much work to do. The reason it's perfect was because you don't get duped. You don't fall for the okie doke and just see the score and go, oh, they played San Francisco closely. They did not play San Francisco closely. There was no question who was the better team, and there was no question the Lions have a lot of work to do. You saw huge mistakes. You saw busted coverages. You saw them on running plays. Aubrey Pleasant getting after Jeff Okudah on the sideline is something that probably made some people uncomfortable, probably will make people uncomfortable. At the end of the day, that's coaching. It's not the fun part of coaching, because later he hugged the kid, right? And I say kid because he's young and we don't even know. He might have an Achilles and it might be a wrap, but that's coaching. And I'm sure Matt Patricia and his staff did something that they called coaching. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not going to jump down that rabbit hole. But we saw young players making mistakes. We saw things that tell us our football team is not very good. But our football team plays in a league that inherently offers on a given Sunday, one team can beat another team. Now, if you play as poorly as the Lions played, the real evaluation is not why they lose the game. They lost the game because San Francisco is a better football team. San Francisco is an organization that has a coach and a system that's been in place, that has older, experienced players who know their system. Their execution was light years better, and that's what you see. When you turn over as much of a roster as the Lions turned over, you're going to get these types of communication mistakes, busted coverages, missed assignments, and you saw a lot of that. The good news is that can be fixed. So when I said perfect earlier, the major talent deficiency, that can be fixed. That will be fixed. Not as fast as we want, but it will. The young, stupid mistakes, that can be coached up and that can be fixed. And you see what the bar is. That's the big thing. You see that San Francisco is what a good football team looks like. That's what a good football team looks like. And they weren't even fully healthy. They didn't have everybody, right? So you know now, oh, those are the things we have to do. You can look at that film. That film has value. You can see things they did and how they stayed disciplined to their assignments, how they didn't make stupid mistakes. And you can determine that's what it takes. As a coach, you can show them this is what it takes. And when he's over there screaming at Jeff Okudah, what he's saying is, you went solo. You went into business for yourself. You went Michael and treated everybody else like Tito. And you are the reason that play got busted for a 38-yard touchdown. That play could have changed the game. I don't know. And I could play that deal where I say, if he doesn't make a mistake there, there's a drop pass, like I mentioned, that would have resulted in a first down instead of a missed field goal, and Goff's horrendous interception. 3 plays changed the game. That would be irresponsible. I'm not doing that. San Francisco was a better team that played better, that has better players and probably better coaches right now. But do not undervalue the heart thing. I'm not going to make it the end of the world. I'm not. I'm going to say to you that part of Dan Campbell's job on Sunday is to coach the game, right, and make game decisions. His job Monday to Saturday is building a culture. I'm not saying it's built. I'm not saying yay. I'm saying that if you build a culture of heart and subsequently add talent to that culture, that's when you get what we all want. This is going to be a ride, folks. If you were out there thinking this is going to be it, and somehow today you're being that, and I know I'm going to the social media posts in a few minutes, and somebody's going to do it. You know they're there. They can't wait. They've been waiting to do this. I think that there are things that scare me, right? And we'll talk about some particular players and what they did. The biggest thing that stood out to me is your two leading tacklers were your safeties. That's an indicator, as they call it. That is an indicator. So I think that, remember, there's a major talent discrepancy. We are cleaning up a hot mess. There's a talent discrepancy that can't be fixed in one off season, and they did not fix it in one off season. There are young players on this team, new and young players on this team in a new scheme. This team is going to be better week 6 than they are now, and they're going to be better week 10 than they are in week 6. Even that, calm down. And you know you're going to get the week 1 overreaction, and you're going to get it across the board. You're going to get people calling in saying the way they came back shows this team has heart and they're going somewhere. Slow that. And then you're going to get the guy who can't wait to call his favorite sports talk radio guy tomorrow. See, same old Lions. Blah, blah, blah. Dumb ass Dan. That dude is ready. He is primed. He is so happy right now. He's on his Twitter feed right now, just typing out dumb stuff, because that's what he does. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go to social media now. Yeah, let's go right to social media, because I just know we're going to find something. So let's see. All right, I'm going to pull this one. Lions fan 22. Feels like it might be time to accept he will never be the guy. So he's talking about Jeff Okudah. So we don't know Okudah's injury, honestly. So he may not be wrong. So I don't think if he's talking about just his play before the injury, I don't agree. Still a young guy. I've told my Jeff Okudah, I've done my Jeff Okudah thing many times. Like last offseason, he had no offseason, that he got hurt in camp. And this is really Jeff Okudah's rookie year right now. And I think that he's going to get better coaching and he's playing in a better scheme. Now, all this assumes he didn't rupture his Achilles, because if he did, it doesn't matter, because he's done for this year. And we're going to do this all again next year, because the dumbass Dans of the world are just going to write him off. He was a bust. They blew it. He was a bust. And some of that is looking for any reason to say something negative about Bob Quinn, which I'm not going to stop you. There's plenty. Jeff Okudah isn't the best choice, but there's plenty of bad things you can say about Bob Quinn if you want to just say something bad about Bob Quinn. I simply, again, do not believe we have enough data to make a decision on Jeff Okudah. I don't think we have enough real data. Not even today. Today, you will say he had a rough day. Again, all this assumes he hasn't ruptured his Achilles and he's done. If he is, it doesn't matter. But I don't know if you can say never after a real rookie season that was unfair to evaluate him on in one game, in what I would call his rookie season. If you can do that, Lions fan 22, congratulations. You're pretty good at this. I'm not sure why you don't work for an NFL team. I think there's talent in Jeff Okudah. I think their players get better, particularly at that position. I don't think Darius Slay was the all-pro his first season. Coming into his second season, I don't think he was. And he ultimately went to a couple of Pro Bowls and signed it. So I think we have the luxury. No, we have the responsibility to be patient. We can't act like dumbass Dan. We can't all be like that. We have to understand that it takes time. And if you start watching games, and if you got up this morning and said, I'm evaluating talent today, and I am going to walk away from this game knowing exactly who's good and who's bad, you're probably a lunatic, or you're probably not that smart, or you're just that dude. So you just want to go post something. So that's fine. That's fine. So I don't agree about Jeff Okudah. I don't think it's time to accept anything. Again, assuming his leg's okay and he comes back, you just got to be patient. And that's not fun. That's not cool. But you can get all the nonsense on sports talk radio. Those guys will tell you Okudah's done. He's over. He's a bum. Blah blah blah. I don't believe it. So another one. Let's see. Okay. Corey. I bet retaining one of your legit downfield threats like Galladay or Marvin Jones would have gone a long way in doing just that. And so this is in response to Campbell said the offense has to find a way to push the ball downfield. Okay. Corey, I'm going to go with you're that dude, right? You just want to be cute with your responses. Because if you really layered this and you did your homework, and I'm not trying to sound like smartest guy in the room because I'm not. I think I'm smarter than Corey. We could not pay Kenny Golladay $16.5 million like the Giants did. So to even suggest that it made any sense, because Kenny Golladay didn't want to play here because he could have played late last season and chose not to. He wanted to get the free agency and get the hell out of here. So Kenny Golladay was never an option. So you got to do your homework on that. And there is not a bigger Marvin Jones fan than me. Fact is, Marvin is of a certain age. Marvin is not take the top off the defense. So if you tell me that in 2 years, Marvin Jones will be a better player than Amon-Ra St. Brown, he will definitely be better than Quintez Cephas. He will be better than Khalif Raymond. As much as I like Marvin Jones, and I do, the decisions this offseason were made with 2 years from now in mind. I don't see why that's so hard for people to grasp. I think it's borderline brilliant, clear. Like, what's the confusion? I'm not saying they don't want to win now. If we win now, great. That's not what's happening right now. And this season is going to be so much easier and simpler if people accept that winning football games in 2021 is not at the top of the priority scale, right? When they set up this structure for an organizational strategy, at the top of that is not win 10 games this year, because you make a whole different set of decisions. You could have signed Golladay. You could have went out and signed a number of guys. You could have traded for certain guys. That is not it. Building a sustainable culture, competing for a championship in 2 or 3 years. That is what's happening. To do that, to be a sustainably good team 2 years from now, 3, 4, 5 years from now, that window, 6 years from now, 4 or 5 year window that starts in 2 years, you had to gut Matt Patricia's roster, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. You had, in as much as you could without destroying your cap, right? So simply put, there was never a chance. Kenny Golladay didn't want to be here, and they were never giving him $16.5 million. That's stupid. Anybody who types at any point this year, wish we had Golladay, should have signed Golladay, you're just not smart. Or maybe you're lazy and you don't want to do your homework because it's simple. That's easy. Marvin Jones is a little trickier. Marvin's closer to 30, and I like Marvin a lot. Marvin was dependable. I think, though, the idea is Marvin would be the best guy on the roster now. But I would say that they would sit you down and say, in 2 years, we think Amon-Ra St. Brown can be Marvin Jones. I don't think that's ridiculous. In 2 years, Quintez Cephas can be potentially something close to God, or we will spend a high draft pick in the next 2 years to get our Kenny Golladay. And we think Amon-Ra St. Brown can be Marvin Jones. That is longer term thinking. I don't know if Corey's not smart or Corey just likes to say stuff on Twitter. That's always the problem with this social part of this podcast. I'm responding to real people who are saying really dumb stuff. And I come off like I know everything. I don't. I just know that what you're saying doesn't make sense. So I'm not saying I know everything. And I'm not suggesting I know everything because I do a podcast. I'm just a dude who decided to do. You could do a podcast, Corey. I don't think you have enough smart things to say to do a podcast. That's not fair. I don't know, Corey. Whatever. One more. All right. Oh, there it is. See, I do the keyword search for SOL, and it just popped up. So here we go. So this is Michael. His name might as well be Dan. He might as well be dumbass Dan. SOL, new head coach, same results, rinse and repeat. Oh, how cute is that? How cute is Michael with his rinse and repeat? The owners have no clue of how to build a winning football team, and hiring a guy who's never been a head coach before shows it. Ooh, that's good stuff. There's so much there. Where do we start? Dan Campbell did a 10 or 12 game stretch as an interim head coach. Maybe Michael doesn't count that. I think that in doing that job, you understand how to make game decisions. But even then, every coach who's ever been a coach was a first-time coach at one point. Michael, this football team is not equipped to win the Super Bowl this year. That is not the goal. That is not the objective. It is building something. And when you are building something, you have the luxury, maybe even the obligation to build a culture. Because when you're going to have young players and you're trying to build something that's going to be appealing later, you have to build a culture. And maybe that word's not cute enough for people like Michael and Corey. Maybe it's just not hot take enough. Twitter was built for people like Michael to just get on and he probably has this thing boilerplate saved, and he's going to send it in after every loss. There is no such thing as SOL, Michael. It doesn't exist. It's a cute little phrase you and a bunch of other morons like to say. It doesn't exist. Every season has been different. Every tenure, whether it's Quinn versus Mayhew versus Millen versus Chuck Schmidt or Russ Thomas, however far you want to go back, each of their tenures were different. Every season has been different. Good seasons, bad seasons. They've been different. They have been who they are for different reasons. There have been seasons that were injury related. There have been seasons that were talent deficient. There have been seasons where they had bad luck. There have been seasons where they just ran into a juggernaut Redskin team because that team was pretty good. Or they went to Philly and got smoked in the playoffs. They're all different. SOL doesn't exist. That's why I hate it so much. And that's why I don't even care who Michael is. It doesn't even matter who Michael actually is. This, to me, is the worst Lion fan ever. These are the worst Lion fans. I don't even call them fans. And I know I'm at the other end of that spectrum. I have a logo in the top right. I drink blue Kool-Aid and I eat cornbread every day. I know who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am. The difference is I will back it up. I'll back it up with data. I'll back it up with remarkably solid data. Even if you don't agree with me, you will not say that dude on that podcast just pulling stuff out of his ass, because that's not what I do. You can disagree with me. You don't have to like me. I don't do this. This is lazy. This is weak. Michael probably didn't watch the game. It's weak and lazy, because if he watched the game, what he should have seen since 2 days after Thanksgiving is this is going to be difficult. It's going to take time. There will be losses. There will be a lot of losses. And I am so comfortable with what they're doing and how they're doing it. Today didn't bother me. Today, it was exciting. It was fun to watch. That's what it was. More than anything, they gave me 20 minutes or so of a really enjoyable time on a Sunday afternoon. And anybody who denies that is just weak-minded. You know, I understand why people left. I'm not going to get into those people shouldn't. Yes, they should have left. That game was a beatdown. I don't blame anybody that left. Nobody should give you grief. It makes total sense. And you had no way of seeing what was happening. And it was some fluke stuff, right? I mean, they had a busted coverage and Khalif Raymond gets wide open. The ball bounced off George Kittle's face mask. So it was exciting. It was exciting for 20 minutes. I didn't wake up this morning thinking they were going to win. I didn't. And you know, midway through the fourth quarter, my good friend Art sent me a text that said 3 words: Goff is awful. That's what Art said. Goff is awful. He wasn't wrong. Not at that point. He was a little bit harsh, because I don't think he's awful. I think that without benefit of some real analysis, I don't know what the impact of the receivers are to the types of balls he threw. Because it was mid fourth quarter or late third before he went deep. He went deep on the ball and overthrew, I think it was Raymond. The first deep ball he threw all day. Everything was checked down and Hawkinson. But guess what, guys? That's what we are. 3 leading receivers in today's game: Hawkinson, Swift, Williams. Get used to it. 24 of his 38 completions went to the tight end and 2 running backs. Do not get mad. Understand that's what it is. That is not a slight at Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyrell Williams, or Khalif Raymond, or Quintez Cephas. That is who they happen to be. You can be mad if you want. Takes time. The whole thing takes time. I don't, people like Michael probably just give me an antagonist for the podcast, because I don't dislike sports talk radio. I don't dislike hosts of sports talk radio shows. I disagree with them often. and strongly, but they're smart people and I get what they're doing. I despise Michael and people like Michael. Corey, not so much. I just disagree with Corey. I don't know if Corey does his homework. You couldn't re-sign Galladay, and we all like Marvin Jones, but we're on a different path. Michael, I don't like. I don't like people who say dumb things, and they either don't care that it's dumb or they know it's dumb and they just want the attention. Because any post that starts SOL after the first game of the season, in that game where they played a better team and they're a young team, new scheme, all the stuff, right? That's not making excuses. I have said very clearly through 3+ quarters, they were taking a beatdown. That game wasn't close. It was a 1-score game. It wasn't close. That wasn't competitive. Anybody who watched the whole game knows that. They're fooling nobody, right? That's fine. I think there is value in that they kept fighting. I think there's long-term value in that they kept fighting. There will be value in the fact that they kept fighting. Not today, but I think guys like Michael are bad fans. Probably a bad person who happens to be a fan. He's probably just not a nice guy. And I have no problem talking about him. And like I said, I don't know him. I don't know him from a box of hammers. I have no idea who Michael is. I know that typing that, posting that out to clickbait people. Oh yeah, Michael, SOL. They love it. To somebody who watches the games, who likes this team, is passionate about the team, and you can call him whatever name you want, Slappy, whatever. It's all a continuum. And I'm far on one side. And just because you're far on the other side doesn't make me wrong. We both may be wrong to a degree. Maybe the right place to be is in the middle. Then that just wouldn't make you a fan. That would just make you a dude or a woman, a person who doesn't really care. I don't think you can be in the middle. If you're a fan, you can't be in the middle. That's what a fan is. Short for fanatic, as they say. So I don't really know that a fan can sit in the middle about their team. And I believe that most of these people like Michael are real fans. They're just weak-minded. So they go to the negative and they bash their team and they say really dumb stuff like SOL. But the minute things go right, he's going to be on the bandwagon holding banners and wearing T-shirts, and he's going to have a coffee mug. It's weak because right now, Michael should say, yeah, I see what's happening. This is different ownership. Sheila's running the team differently than her mom did and definitely differently than her dad did. Everything she's done is different than what they did. And that Michael chooses to drop stupid stuff like SOL means he's not paying attention or he's just a dumbass. And I'm fine with that. All right, enough social. The Michaels of the world will piss me off. I think there's value in this segment, so occasionally you can get a look at a smart fan who sees things and brings up legitimate questions like Akuda. Lions fan 22, that's a legit question right now. That is about Akuda. I just don't think there's enough data. Corey, I just disagree with Corey. I just disagree. I don't think them not pushing the ball down the field today was because of the receivers. I don't even know. Corey actually could be right. I don't know. Michael's just a dumbass. So let's talk some specifics about players and some things Campbell said in post game. So we got to start with Goff, right? And Goff's day is tough for me to analyze because my friend Art was right at that time. That interception was awful. He missed some things where I don't know what the right term is. And you guys can go to @cornbreadpod on Twitter and help me out, please. So they use a term for really good quarterbacks. They say, throw a guy open, right? I think I know what that means. I think it's putting the ball in a place where only the receiver can catch it. Putting the ball in a place where he doesn't have to break his stride. He can get yards after the catch. Whatever the opposite of that is, like if the receiver has to fall to catch your pass, reach back, reach down, jump, Goff had a lot of that. And that's not good, right? That's not good. He looked erratic when he just missed some guys. But there was a number of plays where guys were kind of open, but they had to reach. There's an early play that would have been a first down. Hawkinson in the flat, but he had to almost dive to make the catch, and he couldn't make a play. Whatever the opposite of throwing the guy open is, early on, Goff was doing a lot of that. Guys had to reach back. Cephas had to jump on a sideline ball. There were some drops, honestly, there were some drops. Swift dropped a big one. Swift dropped a couple, I think. So there were some drops, but early he was erratic. His final numbers were 38 of 57, 333, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. His rating was like 98. Statistically, it doesn't look like a horrible day. And if somebody didn't watch the game, well, if you didn't watch the game, what you should see is he threw the ball 57 times. That is a serious indicator of one thing. You were probably trailing. You had to throw. That's why the rushing numbers that I'm going to give you in a minute have to be taken with a grain of salt because they were down big for the bulk of that game. So there was a lot of throwing. I don't think Goff got comfortable, if I feel comfortable using that word. He certainly looked more comfortable in that stretch near the end of the game, right? He was throwing the ball down the field more. We got to be honest. 49ers were not, they were playing lax coverage. He had some longer passes that were available because they were playing soft. I'm not such a cornbread eater that I can't recognize that. And I've said this game was not close. I've said the 49ers were a much better team. They dominated the game. Anything you want me to say, I'll say it. We know what the better team was. Now, that was some exciting football to watch. It was kind of fun. I'm not yet worried about Jared Goff. I'm just not. I know who Jared Goff is. I think he checked down a lot. I am more disturbed and bothered when a quarterback throws to the guy 5 yards out on 3rd and 8. And the argument they will say is, I want my guy to make a play. Your guy's not going to make a play. It's the NFL. He's going to catch the ball at 5 yards. And if you're not better than you were early today, he's probably going to fall. And he gets 5 yards and you punt. That, I get it. And if I'm defense, I'll give you that. If I'm the other team's defense, I will give you 5 yards on 3rd and 8. This is not that hard. You can't be that guy all the time. Now, you are not number 9. So I don't expect you to come here and try and be Matthew Stafford. All in all today, I will say Goff was up and down. At times erratic, but up and down. I'm not tough to grade because he did get them back into the game. He did the stuff he needed to do late, and you can't ignore that. You can't just grade him on that and say that's who he is, because there's a whole nother 3 quarters of football that was average to below average. Hard to forgive the pick 6. You could make a case the pick 6 is the game, except it really wasn't. They really wasn't. So I don't know. I'm leaving the jury out on Goff. His numbers look better than his performance was. That's my Goff thing. His numbers look better than he actually played. But I don't know that we certainly didn't see the best version of Goff. I don't know if we saw the standard version of Goff. I think we saw a version for 3 quarters, and then we saw a different version for a quarter, or 3 quarters of a quarter, whatever that is, 10 minutes, 8 minutes. I don't think either one of them is the real Jared Goff. The real guy is somewhere in between. The interception was horrible. Just horrible. That can't happen. There are interceptions that can be excused. And back in the Stafford days, I would say there's a bad throw and there's a bad decision. And sometimes there's both. I can forgive bad throws. I struggle with bad decisions. If you just go to the wrong place with the football, even if the outcome is good, it stands out. If you make bad decisions, eventually you're going to get bitten, because you don't have the arm Matthew Stafford has. So Jared Goff doesn't have the luxury of consistently making bad decisions. He's going to have to be a better decision maker to compensate for his NFL caliber arm. That's the way it's going to be. I think TJ Hockenson played well today. That's TJ Hockenson. 8 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. You're going to get a whole bunch of that. He's about to make the step up to be one of the elites. Travis Kelce is on a different plane than everybody else. And then I think there's a group, starts with the guy on the other side today, Kittle, maybe Waller, Andrews, but Hawkinson's about to join that group. If he's not already there, he is quickly about to get in that group. I think you saw the DeAndre Swift that you're going to kind of see. 19 touches, 100 plus all-purpose yards and a touchdown. I think he had 11 carries for 40 and 8 catches for 65, if I recall, and a touchdown. That's DeAndre Swift. 19 touches, 100 plus total yards, touchdown. That's what you're going to get from him. And that's what you should get from him, especially if Jamal Williams is going to chip in another 17 touches because he had 9 runs and 8 catches. He's going to go over 100 and score a touchdown. As a backfield, you got to think about what the two of them did, right? They touched the ball 36 times for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. That I liked. I liked how they ran the ball. I liked how they used the running backs in the passing game. That is the highlight. Hawkinson is an all-pro. He's going to be the highlight a lot. But the combination of Swift and Williams today against a good defense, touched the ball more than 35 times. They put up 200 all-purpose yards and scored 2 touchdowns. That, if you want to pull something away, you're a cornbread eater like me, that's what you pull away. I think you pull away that Penei Sewell handled himself, acquitted himself very well at left tackle with the exception of one play where he just got beat on a really good inside move by Bosa. And a lot of guys get beat by Bosa. Sorry. The problem is the guy to replace Sewell on the right, D Ford, did the business to Matt Nelson all day. No disrespect to Matt Nelson because D Ford's a good pass rusher. He's got to play better. If Decker's out a month, he's got to play better because D Ford gave him business all day. So I think there were positives. And I think that's how we're going to have to treat this season. I think you can say, I like the offensive line. Nelson's going to be better and Decker will be back eventually. I think Penei Sewell held himself well. And, oh, you're going to get that narrative, by the way, all week. Leave Sewell at left tackle, trade Decker. You're going to get ridiculous stuff there. Or they're just going to highlight the one play where Bosa did him in, which it's Bosa. What are we talking about? So Jeff Okudah's the one, and I don't want to do it because I don't know what his injury is. So maybe when we get back together, I'll do something midweek and we'll prep for the Packer game and talk about injuries and whatnot Wednesday. I don't know if it even matters to evaluate Okudah because he might be done. So Campbell had press conference after the game, and I don't know how to evaluate Dan Campbell today. If you want to, you can say they weren't prepared. They got manhandled. I disagree. I think the better team executed better with the exception of the first snap and outplayed the team that wasn't better. I'm not going to go overkill on the comeback and fight, and they didn't quit. There are people who do that. There are people who like to do that kind of thing. I'm just not one of those people. That's great. That's great. If you're building a culture, I need more than one data point is all it is. But he said, it was nothing spectacular. The game was 31-10 at halftime, and you have to play a different game. He said that you have to go away from the run. You have to do something differently. They're a run and play action team, and they had to go away from that once they were down 31-10. And he's right. He was not happy about missed opportunities, and I'm glad. And he was not happy in general, and he talked about some of them. I think it was an underrated play where there was a tip ball early in the game, and I think Melon Fonru could have had an interception, and he dropped it. That play could have changed the game. Swift had a drop that I thought was huge, and all mistakes are dwarfed by Goff's horrible throw. And it's really the decision. It's like he was triple covered and he locked in on Hawkinson. And I don't know. I'm not the guy who talks about nerves or any of that. The guy's a professional football player. He's been to the Super Bowl. I think he's made a bad decision there. And it's tough to evaluate him in this game. I don't know. He had to throw 57 times. It's not really fair. He completed 70% of his throws, throwing 57 balls. It's not horrible, but they basically got manhandled. So you can look at a game and say, okay, I see who the better team is. But even when you talk about that, he gave him a chance to win. Like, he found some groove in the fourth quarter and played significantly better. So I don't know. I just think he is not as bad as he played the first 3+ quarters. I'm not sure he's as good as he played for like 7 minutes. I feel like the real Jared Goff is closer to the guy who played late. but we need to see it, right? So he missed some others too. I talked earlier about throwing guys open. He was not doing that. So, I mean, Campbell obviously wants to clean up things, and that's what he talked about. We got some things we need to clean up. I think we need to accept that those kinds of things are going to happen a lot for two reasons. The biggest one is just a talent discrepancy. They're not favored in a single game this year. Doesn't mean they're not going to win any games. That's ridiculous, because the odds are not about the best team. The odds are about getting bets, right? So, I mean, all in all, it's a really weird game to evaluate. Like I said, with 7 minutes left, I knew what this podcast was going to be, and I was fine. I knew the Michaels or the dumbass Dans would be there saying what they said. I was fine. I don't know what kind of weight to put on the "they didn't quit" piece. I feel like it has some value. It has to be mentioned. We're not going to say if that's who they are already. He's built that culture already. Okay. I'm not going to ignore the fact that the 49ers probably relaxed, probably called different kinds of plays, probably lost focus. It is weird. A rally is tough to evaluate because they're not going to look that crisp and sharp offensively every game. And the other team isn't going to let onside kicks bounce off their face masks and things like that. So it was exciting. I think there was a lot to learn. And ultimately, like I said, from my way of thinking and the way I would look at it, I think it was a perfect game. I think it was perfect. I'm actually very happy, right? Because the reality is what we saw most of the game. They have a serious talent deficiency. All due respect to these NFL players. As it relates to, if San Francisco is the bar, like a team capable of competing for a division title, that should be the bar, right? If that's the bar, and we might really get to see a bar next week, a bar like a beatdown, because your boy might be on a friend of mine calls it a revenge redemption tour again, part 2. So that could be special. But if San Francisco is kind of the bar, we see what the gap is. We see how far we are from being where we want to be. And that is valuable. That is valuable. They get to take those film and they get to go back and say, look, hey, young player, here's a stupid mistake you made. Like Aubrey Pleasant was doing to Jeff Okudah. And Jeff Okudah decided he wanted to talk back to his coach, and he got what he got. Might not matter for Jeff Okudah. We talked about that. But coaching is not always fun, hugging, nice. It's coaching. You're trying to teach people to be more disciplined. It appears to everybody paying attention that the 38-yard touchdown by Mitchell was the result of Jeff Okudah doing something he wasn't supposed to do. They can look at that film. And even if Jeff Okudah has a ruptured Achilles and is done for the year, his replacement can understand. Next time, do what you're supposed to do. That's building a culture. And so I think the rally says something about heart. I think the film will say there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work. And I think that's great. That's what's great is we got to see that they have a heart. Even though dumbass Dan is going to chime in with the SOLs, Fort sell the team, blah, blah, blah. This is not the same thing. But most importantly, for fans and everybody out there, we had a lot of work to do. The biggest thing that it was the overreaction is going to probably be to the negative. Really, really bright, reasonable people will look and go, this football team has a lot of work to do, which I knew, and I'm a cornbread eater, and I'm fine with. I think that Jared Goff's not a bum. I feel like there's something there, and I like what I saw of Sewell, and I do like the heart. I do like that they scored 33 points on one of the better defenses in the league. I like how they ran the football early in the game. I like how they used the running backs in general. So I think there's some things there. It's just a long process, guys. So wasn't as fun as we had hoped. We got Green Bay next week. Look for something midweek. We'll update Okudah's injury. Talk about like hard timing on Decker. Maybe we'll have something by then, and just kind of prep up for Green Bay. And so tough start, nice punch to the face. But this is part of the process. there will be more podcasts like this. So, but let's stick with them. Let's not be Michael. Let's not be dumbass Dan. Let's stick with them because we will eventually get to that place we want to be, and we're going to like it. So appreciate you joining me today. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, I need you to let me know at Cornbread Pod. Give me some likes, give me some reviews. Anything can help. Give me ideas on Twitter. I'm open to it. I listen to everything. So hope you enjoyed it. Everybody have a good one. We'll see you next week.